Hey you guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Muscle Building Mastery podcast. My name's Andy Clements. I'm so ridiculously excited to have you here because today we are going to talk about some really interesting concepts about muscle building in particular. Now, I've not uploaded an episode in a few days, so if you've been waiting for a new upload, I apologise, but there's been a really good reason for that. I've been putting the finishing touches on some amazing courses that I've just put together that are like, I was working out earlier, I think it's like between 20 and 25 hours worth of video content that's just pure fire about how to build muscle for training, nutrition, health, sleep, mindset, and a bunch of other stuff as well, which is awesome. But anyway, I will tell you how to access them when they are ready. They're not quite ready yet, but I'm going to tell you when they're ready. You're the first to know, I promise. Anyway, this particular episode of the Muscle Building Mastery podcast, we're going to talk about the term mastery. Now, I use the term mastery in everything that I put out, basically. So the courses I've put out, we've got training mastery, we've got sleep mastery, health mastery, mindset mastery, we've got all these different masteries, and obviously this podcast is called Muscle Building Mastery. Now, that's not an accident. I've not just plucked that name out of thin air, right? The term mastery is something that I fell in love with a few months ago, or maybe more than that, maybe a year ago, and the reason is because of what the term actually means. Okay. Now, in order to understand what the term means, I want to give you a bit of an example and a bit of a story about something that's not related to muscle building, so I could link it back, okay? And that example I'm going to give you is driving. So when you learn how to drive, now most people would agree that driving is a skill. It's like a life skill, okay? Especially driving manual, driving with gears, with a gear stick, right? The majority of people in the UK drive manual cars. I know in the US it's a bit different. Most people drive automatic, right? But in the UK it's a manual thing. And in order to drive a car is a skill, and when you first get in a car, I know personally, so other people pick things up quicker than me, but personally when I first got in a car in the driver's seat, and I did my first ever driving lesson when I was 17 years old, and I was let loose behind the wheel of a car. I only was allowed to, I used it like an automatic basically, because the guy doesn't teach you the whole clutch and the gears until like lesson 2 or lesson 3 or something. You just basically have to drive it like a big go-kart. And that was like, even that was like ridiculously hard for me. Like, I did not know what I was doing. I was really bad at the steering, like, and I was pressing the brake too late, and I was too hard on the accelerator. It was crazy. At one point in that first lesson, I mounted the curb. Like, I'm not lying. I mounted the pavement, and there was a guy like walking across the road, and he was like freaking out because there was this car coming towards him on the pavement, and my instructor had to like slam on, because they've got like safety brakes on their side. He had to slam on the brakes on his side, and he was like, right, okay, go back on the road. So it was crazy, but you know, after a number of lessons, and after a number of months, and then eventually years, and passing the test, and doing all the things, and driving on my own, and going on the motorways, and practicing the skill over and over again, and learning things consciously, they then become, the skill then of how to drive then seeps down into your subconscious, and it seeped down into my subconscious mind. And I learnt the skill at such a deep level that now when I'm 10 years on from mounting that curb and nearly knocking a guy over with my car, or with my instructor's car, 10 years on from then, I can now go outside, get in my car, put the engine on, and drive half an hour in a particular direction without ever consciously thinking about what I'm doing. Like, I can listen to a podcast, I can listen to music, I listen to the radio, I can do any other activity that occupies my brain while my subconscious mind is focused on the task at hand, which is actually driving the car, driving this big metal box around, right? Which is a big deal, you think about it, right? You're operating this vehicle. But it doesn't ever really consciously cross my mind that that's what I'm doing, because I'm focused on something else, right? Now, unless something draws my attention back to that, which is having to do an emergency stop because there's somebody jumped out in front of the road, or there's a traffic accident or something's going on, then obviously my attention is going to be firmly on that. And obviously, like when I'm saying I'm doing it subconsciously, obviously I'm aware I'm behind the wheel of a car. Obviously I'm aware that of what's going on, but the conscious part of my mind is primarily focused on what else is going on. Like you can get lost in thought, you can listen to a podcast, you can listen to the radio, you can have music on, all these different things. And because I'm able now, I wasn't able at first because I had to learn the skill, but because I've mastered the skill to such an extent that I can do it subconsciously without having to think about it, that is what my definition of mastery is. Mastery of a skill is where you're able to learn it to such a degree and practice it and like absorb it into your being at such a degree that you could do it in your sleep. You can you don't have to consciously think about it. It's seeped down into the subconscious level of your mind, and your brain and your body have learnt how to perform these movements, how to do these things, and you don't have to, it's not such an effort to coordinate your body in such a way anymore. Now that's driving. Training is exactly the same. Exactly the same. The only difference is you're learning how to operate your body rather than operate a car. Right? So if you've ever learned how to drive before, even if you haven't, but if you have learned how to drive before, and you've gone through that phase that I've just described, and any of that resonated with you, some people, I failed my driving test twice before I passed it, so it took me a long time to learn this skill that I can now do with ease every single day, 2, 3, 4 times a day sometimes, just to get from point A to point B, in the world. But training is exactly the same way. So if you can master the skill of driving, if you can master any skill whatsoever, and you can now do it subconsciously, then you can do the same with training. But you must understand that training is a skill. It's a skill set that you must learn first consciously by doing things like you're doing now, going on YouTube or going on your podcast app, or purchasing a course or hiring a coach or doing something to learn consciously the technique, to learn the theory behind what you're doing, to absorb that into your conscious mind, and then you go consciously and practice that, and you practice it over and over and over again. Then you learn a bit more and you practice it, and you learn it a bit more and practice it, and then eventually in a gradual process, before you realise what's happened, you've practiced that to such a high extent, and you've done the law of repetition so many times that this knowledge and this experience and this skill has started to seep down into your subconscious mind. And now that when you walk into the gym and you've got bicep curls first, or you've got a bench press first, or a leg extension, or whatever movement it is, without having to consciously think like, okay, I need to set myself up here, I need to do this, and your body is trained, your subconscious mind is trained to, when you get on a certain machine now, you know the correct position, you know the correct posture, you know how to initiate the working muscle, you know everything you need to know in order to get the 100% most out of that exercise, to really activate your muscle mass in the best way you possibly can. And you don't have to think about it. You don't have to sit there and go, oh my god, like, what am I doing here? Where do I move? Do I move my elbow this way? Do I move my shoulder? What do I do with my knees? Like all these questions that come up when you're first starting. It's just the same as driving a car, right? And it's just the same as, I don't know, if you don't drive a car, like maybe if you ever played chess, right? You ever played chess, like, oh, okay, what move can the pawn do? The pawn can move 1 space, but it can move 2 spaces at the start. Or what does a knight do? The knight, the little horse thing, that can move in L shape, so you go in L shape there, okay? I can't remember what the bishop does now, and all these different things, and you're trying to learn the rules, but then you've done it for 10 years, the rules, that you don't even think about the rules, you just know, that moves there, right? And it's just the same thing. It's just you're applying the subconscious rule to things that externally, when you're playing chess or you're driving or you're doing something else, and you're now taking that external rule and you're applying it internally. Okay, what do I do with my bicep? I'm going to squeeze it and then I'm going to curl. What do I do with my chest? I'm going to contract my pec, I'm going to drive my elbow across, I'm going to fire the pec up. And when you learn these things consciously and then practice them over time, that is where mastery comes. And when you get mastery and you attain mastery of the skill of training, attaining mastery of the skill of muscle building will follow very, very soon, because it's one massive component. Now there's other components, nutrition, that is an area that you can master, the sleep and the health and all these different things. They're all skill sets that you need to master if you want to really grow muscle, but they all fall under the umbrella of muscle building, and that's why this podcast is called Muscle Building Mastery, because that's what we're about here. We're about mastering the skill set that's required to build muscle, and it is a skill set. So the biggest piece of advice that I guess I want you guys to take from this particular episode, and I'm going to wrap it up really soon, I don't want to keep this too long, but the biggest piece of advice that I would give you guys to take away from this episode is make sure that you invest the time, and if necessary invest the money, in learning the skill set of training and in learning the skill set of anything that you need to acquire the goal of muscle building. Then practice it and invest the necessary time and the necessary repetition required to allow that skill set to seep down into your subconscious mind. And once you've allowed that skill set to seep down into your subconscious mind, it's not that you don't need to keep learning, because learning is obviously still going to keep developing that skill set, and it's going to keep upskilling, and so you're going to learn the skill set at a deeper level, or maybe learn new skill sets that can bolt onto that. But it's that the skill set that you learned in the beginning, you've now mastered, and when you attain mastery of that skill set, that's when things really start to change for you. Really, really start to change for you. Like, in terms of, let's just talk about muscle engagement, right? So all muscle engagement means, it's kind of like switching your muscle on, which is the difference between just lifting a weight and lifting a weight with using the muscle, right? So when you master muscle engagement, the productivity of your training sessions and the amount of benefit that you're going to get from each rep, even in the gym, each set, each rep, each weight you lift in the gym, is going to go like 1,000 times higher, because you have mastered making your brain and your nervous system switch on individual muscle fibers and individual muscle cells, even to lift, to expend the necessary energy to lift the weight, rather than just using momentum or inertia or anything else. So yeah, I know that was a bit of a rant, that was a bit of a long kind of podcast, but I really want you guys to be aware of that, and to focus on mastering the skill set associated with muscle building. So that's pretty much all I've got for this episode. And before I go, I do want to say that I have got a brand new 6-week training program available completely for free, right? I'm giving this thing away for free because I want you guys to have the necessary tools that you need to practice and attain the skill of mastering muscle building. Now, if you head to www.musclebuildingmastery.net, so that's net.com, so musclebuildingmastery.net, so the title of this podcast, .net, then you can download that for free, completely free, no strings attached. It's 6 weeks to take you from the area of maybe being sort of like a beginner level, all the way to like a more advanced training master at the end of week 6. So it's a progressive workout plan that I've designed. It took me a long time to design and engineer this in a way that will help you progress through the stages really, really quickly and attain that level of mastery that you need in order to progress. So I hope that is useful for you guys. Don't forget to head to www.musclebuildingmastery.net to get your free 6-week workout program right now. And yeah, if you enjoyed this podcast, please also subscribe, leave me a review, drop a like on the video, and comments, all that fun stuff. And I'll see you next time for episode 30 next time of the Muscle Building Mastery podcast. Bye.